You are not good enough. If you are still struggling to make earnings in 2024, the chances are you are making the one fatal error that is holding you back from getting your first earnings in Fortnite competitive. So without further ado, make sure to like and subscribe and enjoy the video, because this should help you get your first earnings without any more problems. If you are watching this video, the chances are you have at the very least dabbled in Fortnite competitive. But most likely, you're somewhere from Platinum all the way to Champion and still have no earnings to show for it. But why is that? Well, without knowing anything about your strengths and weaknesses, your setup, your settings, or your monitor, I can tell you exactly what the problem is. Because without a doubt, you are not playing at your skill level. You see, most people who play Cash Cups make the mistake of not actually thinking about how they're playing. These people just play off of a set formula that they've compiled based off of a bunch of YouTube videos they've watched about how to push people and play in-game without actually thinking about it for a second. But here's the problem. You aren't the person that made that video. And let's face it, you probably aren't as good either. This is the core problem that is holding you back. You are playing with strategies that were built for someone who knows themselves and their skill sets. So the best way to fix this is to take an honest look at yourself and your abilities. Think about what situations you die in and try and stay out of those situations. And for those of you already about to say in the comments, but how am I supposed to stay out fights without camping? Do some research on what dead side of zone is, because if you don't already know where most people are going to be, then you are doomed to fail. But that's only part of the reason that you haven't made earnings yet. The main reason that you haven't made your first earnings is pride. After all, maybe you have already assessed your skills and realized that you aren't good enough to consistently win your fights. But you thought, nah, I'm not going to win my first earnings by camping. I'm better than that. I had this thought process too, and it severely held me back. I have been doing Cash Cups consistently for the past almost 2 months, and I still hadn't got my first earnings. But here's the honest thing. It's going to be a long time before you can win earnings consistently when you play this aggressive. If you look at the playstyle of most of the people who qualify, they are playing slow and careful, not W-king every fight they see. But I want to show you that I'm not just talking random crap. Let's dive into the data. Let's use North America servers for qualification mounts for this instance. The top 10,000 players will move on from the first round of a Victory Cup into the second round. Generally this season, it looks like you're going to need about an average of 111 points to qualify for the Build Cup. Dividing that by 7 games, you're only going to need around 16 points per game to qualify. Easy, right? Well, here's the thing. You're going to need to consistently get top 15 every single game for that to work. And some games just don't work out. Maybe you died off drop, maybe you got pushed by like 4 or 5 people at once. Stuff happens. So your goal is to make sure that you have as many games where you make it extremely high in the placement as possible. Because here's the thing. If you look at any player randomly outside of the top 1,000, chances are an extremely large portion of their points are placements. And I know you're saying, okay, yeah, but fragging out is going to be extremely good for my points. But in reality, it's not. The number 1 players in these Cash Cups only have 20% of their points in elims. And these are the people who are running around killing as many people as they can. So here's the deal. Fragging for the sake of points is not worth it. When you are thinking about whether or not to take a fight, you should never be thinking about it in terms of elim points. However, am I saying you should be camping the whole time? No. The way you should be thinking about fights is a risk versus reward mentality. The mentality you're using should change depending on where you are in the game. So I'm going to break down exactly what you should be doing in each part of the game. If you're in early game, you should be getting loot and trying to kill the other people who landed with you. Your main focus in this part of the game is supplies and safety. You should be simultaneously trying to get the materials, ammo, and loot you will need for late game, while also ensuring your safety in the location by eliminating everyone else there. But what if I keep dying early game? Then you need a different drop spot. If you cannot consistently handle the smoke 99% of the time, you should not be landing where you're landing. Mid-game. Now that you're here, you should be focused on one thing: surviving the hordes. You see, this is where everyone and their mother is roaming around and trying to find a place to sit tight for endgame. However, we're not worried about everyone and their mother. We're worried about one particularly dangerous group of people in particular. the Hive. The reason I call these players the Hive is because they are mindless drones who will overwhelm you through pure numbers and stupidity. When you shoot at one of them, every single one within earshot will perk their ears up and come contest. And they will aggro anyone and everyone they see, even if it's just a terrible idea for their qualification chances. So your goal is to sit tight in a bush, a box, a dumpster, something. A trick I learned recently is to make a full box, edit a wall down, and hide in the top cone so it looks like you left. The only goal that you have at this point in your game is making sure you have enough materials, ammos, and heals and guns for in-game. But try not to actively start fights and play very defensively. In-game. At this point, you should start playing more aggressively. That doesn't mean just go W key random people, but start trying to get damage on everyone you see, and if the opportunity presents itself, you can go for kills. Your goal at this point is to weaken as many of your enemies as is humanly possible so they're in a worse position than you, and then you can maybe get the win. Now, going back to what I mentioned earlier, playing at your level. I'm sure you're asking, but how do I know what my level is so I can improve? Think about what you've been doing and how you've been dying in your past cups, and more importantly, when you've been dying. If you've been dying a lot early game, most likely your raw aim and builds needs a lot of work. If you die a lot mid game, then you probably need much better positioning and strategy, as well as mechanics and aim. And finally, if you've been dying late game, you need to work on your late game mechanics, which are a whole host of things such as good peaks, being able to give damage without receiving any, rotations, and more. If you can follow all of this advice, I feel confident that you will be able to get your first earnings in the next cash cup or two, or at least get the second round. Getting earnings is a little harder than that, and you actually have to know how to play second round. But for that, just learn how to play late games and in games without dying, and you shouldn't have any problem. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you like this in any way, shape, or form, and I will see you guys in the next video. Hey guys, ProCat here. I just wanted to tell you guys that I'm trying to stream every day at around 6 or 7 p.m. CST, so if you want to come drop in or drop a follow on my Twitch and YouTube, it would mean a lot to me. Also, go follow my Instagram, which is also linked in the description. Once again, thanks for watching.